Coming up on this episode of the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise podcast.
My mentoring model, is I refer to it as the 3 E's.
Welcome to the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise podcast with Dr. William T. Choctaw, MD, JD, where the doctor helps you unlock your full potential by equipping you with tools and knowledge in the areas of health, wealth, and wisdom, anchored in his experience as a business executive, a physician surveyor for the Joint Commission, a former mayor, and over 50 years of experience as a general surgeon. You've got questions, he's got answers. So let's get started. Here's Dr. William T. Choctaw, MD, JD.
Well, one of the things that I've noticed, so I've always thought, and you can correct me on this, when I was growing up, most of the teachers were women. I saw very few men teachers in my school, junior high school, and I went to one of those schools that went from first to the 12th grade. So it's the same building. You went to one side and then you went around the hall, and the other side was the high school. And my point is, and I grew up in Nashville, Tennessee. My school was like 100% African American, and I'm thinking about role models, that we boys had, particularly those maybe who didn't have fathers in the home, and that's why I think your work and the work that you're doing now is so good, because that's exactly what's needed, particularly getting our young people to go to college or letting them know that they can go to college and get a degree. Because in my opinion, if you don't get through that door, then everything else becomes 10 times more difficult for you, regardless of who you are or how smart you are.
Yes. No, you're absolutely right. And I'm glad you mentioned that, because my mentoring model, is I refer to it as the 3 E's. Evaluate, educate, then elevate. And so that's how I'm going to start my mentoring programs and activities is, evaluate our teens, find out what their needs are, find out where they are at this point in time. Not all of them have the same background. And so you want to get to know them. And so, you want to be able to reach them. And the only way you can do that is to evaluate them.
Exactly.
Assess them, find out what are the things that are pushing their buttons. What are the things that that triggers them? What's going on with them currently at their time. And so I came with that mentoring out of it. It starts with an evaluation, and after evaluation, then you can educate them.
Yes,
and this is where I can utilize my skills, some other mentors. Dr. Choctaw, I may be calling on you to,
I'd be happy to help. You just let me know. Absolutely.
Yeah. But after the evaluation, it's called you educate. Okay, now you get to, and you educate them by demonstration, by modeling. There are so many just skill sets that a lot of our young people don't have today. Now, granted, partially it's because they're so involved in their technology and they're sitting there. Perhaps right now we speak maybe in their bedroom on their cell phone, going through a lot of different social media apps. But what about all those skills that are out there that you and I, grew up on? Those lost skills, those are lost skills that our young people need to be trained.
Absolutely.
I get teased a lot by my daughters. Because, of course, when they begin dating, you kind of say, what's the ideal man for that particular person? And so I get ridiculed by my daughters and some of my relatives because I said, well, that man that you dated, he should be able to know how to change a flat tire. So if you traveling on the road and you run a flat tire, will you be able to get out there and change a flat? Now,
so you're really old school, huh?
I'm just using that as kind of an example, but we got AAA now, so people just call AAA.
Right. And then they say these cars, the tires repair themselves.
Exactly, yeah. But still, though, this some skills I think that just that develops you as becoming a man.
Yes, I understand.
And I want our teenagers to understand. I won't be so much old school, but still, I just want to be able to meet them where they are, educate them, and then after you educate them, you elevate them. Okay.
Yes.
And then you promote them, you recognize their accomplishments, their achievements. And then also this will come up with, like you said, I believe, like you said, they should be elevated to be able to go to college and, or go directly into the workforce. Okay. You talk about skills. Okay.
Right.
You don't necessarily have to have a 4-year degree from a, prominent university. Trade school, you can make a very good living out of going to like a trade school. And some of our young people, they are so skillful and a lot of things that they do, but you can direct them into, hey, you know what? You're good with your mechanics, you're good with your hands. Why don't you put that, in technology, put that use to maybe going to trade school, maybe a college and living in a dorm is not perhaps for you. That's okay. But still, direct them to somewhere else where now they can elevate. Now you're going to elevate their lives. And so that's my mentoring model.
Oh, are you at the stage with your organization where members of the public are helping you, or is that down the road? Or if someone listening to you now, say in New York, and say, that sounds like a great idea, and they want to help or they want to get more information, what would you say to them?
Okay, so I am at what we use that term, the infancy stage of my nonprofit.
Okay,
so
okay.
I'm just days away from launching my website.
Okay, all right.
And once the website is live, then I can then begin, like you said, send out information how they can reach me, how they can contact me through my website. And so that's where I am right now. So I have had those. I have a board of board of directors, and one thing I'm learning about this is new for me as well, and starting a nonprofit organization. And so I'm looking to obviously secure sponsorships, grants, donations, for my mentoring activities. But I'm anxious about getting going. In fact, I have to have, my structure in place, for my board, they want to ensure that everything's in place.
Understood, yes.
And so but they did give me permission to launch what I refer to as like an unofficial mentoring activity. So back in April, I took a group of teens to HBCU night at the Clippers. There was HBCU night at the crypto.com. Okay. And that was just a wonderful experience for those teenagers. Just to go out there and I'm sure that planted a seed in some of those students that, hey, you know what? This is, excellent. I may consider now going to an HBCU.
Yes.
So those are the types of things that I want to do is, expose, teenagers to, just life, take them on college tours locally and nationally. And I'm even, and I'm thinking big now, but I'm even perhaps maybe want to expand their horizon by taking them internationally. You'd be surprised how much teenagers grow by learning and discovering other parts of the world.
Exactly.
That's what I'm doing. But I'm at the infancy stage. But I tend to, once I retire now from my full-time position education, I can devote, now more time towards my.
Well, please keep us informed, seriously, because I think everything you're saying, I completely agree with. And what's particularly unique and special, I think, is that you're an African-American male professional who's giving back. And even though it doesn't matter who the students are, or their race doesn't matter, but you don't see that a lot, is what I'm saying. And I went to an HBCU before going to Yale Medical, and there's no question that it was beneficial to me. Different environment, different everything, but it was clearly, I went to Tennessee State in Nashville, and clearly I learned things from there that maybe I wouldn't have learned at Yale and vice versa. So there's always a benefit there. But just the fact that you're actually doing something, you're not just talking about it, you're taking an affirmative step, as we say in the law, to get stuff done, I think is extraordinary. And you've already planned stuff out. And we will do whatever we can here at Healthy, Wealth, and Wise Podcast Group to help you. You can come back at different stages if you like, once you launch your website or whatever, and we can do a podcast on that particular stage. But please see us as your eternal partners, as part of the brotherhood, to help you do what you
wonderful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And we will
Thank you
make
so
that public.
much.
Yep. We'll make that public commitment to you right now. And I didn't know this was going to happen because I didn't know what you were doing. but I think the opportunities are so rare, that when we see something positive and we see someone doing something good, that we should all help. Because we all need that. It really does take a village. I think Hillary said that, or somebody said that. It really does take a village to get things done. And what I've learned that when I was growing up and I wasn't sure about this and that, people would help me. People I didn't know would help me. Different colors, different races, on and on and on. And so I said, okay, that's how I want to be able to give back. And so when I hear leaders like yourself laying out your vision that you're already implementing, we will clearly line up behind that.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I appreciate that too, because I love the fact that the podcast and the work that you and Jesse doing with regards to healthy, wealthy, and wise. And one of the things that I noticed, even in our classes, you bring in that component of mental health. Yes. And that is so critical right now. Yes. And as a principal of a school, since post-pandemic, what was so critical is addressing the social, emotional needs of young people. Yes. And so I appreciate, your platform and how, you bring attention to that, because there are not adults, but there are teenagers that are struggling with, mental health issues.
Absolutely.
Social, emotional issues. And so, I definitely will reach out because, when I have mentoring activities, there may be let's say a Saturday where I'm just going to address social emotional needs or mental health needs. Yes. And bring in professionals like yourself and other men, on this podcast that can, speak to our young people regarding that. So thank you so much. I feel the partnership. I feel, thank you for, joining in with me in our cause to, having students impact our communities. Yes.
And that's how, God is in charge, because none of this was planned, but I think that's the way things develop. And it's certainly things I've learned just with our podcast, and Jess and I talk about this all the time, that we have no idea where things are going, but it takes a life of itself, and people just step in and help you along the way. Sometimes you know them, sometimes you don't know them, but there's a momentum that keeps you going. But I'm impressed because you've already taught me something that I didn't know. I didn't know about your 501c3, and I didn't know what your plans were, and it's certainly something we can get behind.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Yes, thank you.
Absolutely. No, you're very welcome. You're very welcome. So if you were to advise, let's say a group of young people, teenagers, and they say, Brother Higgins, what can we do to make sure that we live a healthy life or a happy life? What have you found? What are the elements have you found that have kept you happy and satisfied and positive? Because the other thing, you're a very positive person, and that comes across as a teacher, and I think that's extremely important, because many times it's what you communicate non-verbally as well as what you communicate verbally. So how would you advise young people who are just starting out, say middle or late teens, and they want to make sure they're on the right path?
Yes. Oh, thank you so much. That's a very, very good question. And so I believe that, young people today, this is a term that I don't see too much going on in our schools, and that's that word respect.
Yes.
And I at an early age learned to respect those in position of authority.
Yes.
It started in the home. You had to respect, your parents. Okay. And so I appreciate the fact that I grew up in a home where my parents instilled those principles and values in you. And so definitely respect. You may always agree with, perhaps maybe someone that's older, but respect them, respect what they've gone through and what they did. Okay. And so it starts with respecting them. Okay. And then also it starts with listening as well, to the direction and advice. Okay.
Yes.
Of those who, I use the word, been around the block. Okay. You'd be surprised, like you said, the lessons that you can learn from someone that, who is, I use the word, more mature than you, more seasoned than you.
Yes.
And so it starts there. Have respect for yourself, for life in general. And then I use that terms again about being a lifelong learner. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Discipline yourself to learn. Okay.
Yes.
And I if you put those, I think those two together, okay, then, doors will open up for you. Okay.
Yes.
You look at, again, all of my adult life has been in the field of education. And what's happening in our classrooms today is that students, they don't respect the teachers anymore.
Okay.
And I'm not to say that all teachers are, one of the things that I pride myself on is treating people respectfully and professionally.
Yes.
And there's times I had to address as a principal, perhaps a teacher, and perhaps maybe how could you have handled this differently?
Yes.
This should never be in a situation where, because when you're a teacher in a classroom, you're the adult authority figure in that class, and you should be able to de-escalate any situation in that classroom setting.
Yes.
So important. But students, they come to school with the mindset, well, he didn't respect me, so I'm not going to respect him. Okay. So as a leader of a school, I address my staff by saying to ensure that you have respect for those students that are walking through your door every day. They will respect you and at that point now, they're ready to learn. They're ready to receive instruction. If they know that you care about them, they know that you respect them. And so that's how I believe I was successful as an administrator, because I respected those who were above me and also those who, were under me. And that's important.
I think to this day that works. And then what I've learned is that you have to go first. You can't say, well, I'm going to do so and so once he respects me and whatever. Leaders go first. Leaders go first. Say, if I want you to respect me, I've got to respect you first.
Exactly.
Because if that's the direction things are going, I agree with you completely. Because many times if you don't respect others, many times they don't respect themselves. And if they don't respect themselves, then they take unnecessary risks that then proves them right in a negative way. Either somebody told them, you will never amount to anything, or you will blah, 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 blah. And they have that message in their head. And that's why I tell parents, be careful what you say to your children. You can discipline them, nothing wrong with that, but never attack their character. Never tell them they're bad people, because there are many times we grew up believing that. Well, my mommy told me I was a bad person, so blah, blah, blah type thing. But no, I completely agree with you.
Yeah. And you brought up something too that I often say whenever because I spent as a classroom teacher, and also, but I was a disciplinarian. Most of my years in education was serving as an assistant principal in charge of discipline. Okay. So you can imagine the many parent conferences I've had with both parent and student there. But I will always use the phrase that, you know what, ma'am, your son is not a bad person. He just made a bad decision.
There you go.
He made a bad choice. And so I want to instill that into that child, that you're not a bad individual. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. What you did was you made a bad decision that now causing you perhaps maybe to be, receive some type of a consequence, but you're not a bad person. And that has to be, like you said, you don't tell someone, oh, you'll never amount to anything, or you're a bad person. And so that's what I try to, ensure that I demonstrated that as a leader, and also those who, I led in education.
We want to thank you for spending some of your very valuable time on a Saturday morning to come and talk to us. You clearly educated me about some things that I didn't have a clue about. And again, I see an opportunity where we can definitely work with you in whatever process you would like to assist you in doing the good work or some of the good work that you're doing. And so please feel free at any time you want to come back, just let us know, and that door is always open to you.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise podcast with Dr. William T. Choctaw, MD, JD. Be sure to check out other great episodes covering areas of health, wealth, and wisdom at thwwp.com. And while you're there, be sure to check out the books, blogs, and other literature in your preferred format. And don't forget to leave a review, subscribe, share, and support the podcast. That's at thwwp.com. You've been listening to the Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise podcast with Dr. William T. Choctaw, MD, JD.